Yeah, hi there. These comments are for Azadeh. This is Michael. I'm the founder, owner, and the materials writer for the 7-step system to pass the TOEFL IBT. Now, you just completed, it looks like, the integrated writing practice test number 19. And I just sent that over to my TOEFL IBT writing specialist. He'll score that today. But you also have a question, and that's the purpose of this particular video today, is to answer your question. And I'm going to click on the rubrics for the integrated writing practice test as I answer the question, because I think that's going to give you some important information so you can understand more about this type of writing and how it's scored. So your question is, how much information of the lecture is important? What happens if I could not get one of them well, but I try to write very well? Good question. Now, what you're doing here is the reading passage will bring up 3 key points. Let's just call them point A, point B, and point C. Now, the lecture will bring up 3 counterpoints to the points mentioned in the reading passage. So there would be a counterpoint for the first point mentioned in the reading passage, which means the lecture will disagree with the first point that you have read about and give an example to explain that. Then the lecture has another reason why it disagrees with the second point mentioned in the reading passage. And finally, the lecture will have a third reason why it disagrees with the third point mentioned in the reading passage. So it's kind of like point, counterpoint, point, counterpoint, point, counterpoint. Now, if you leave out one of those counterpoints that are mentioned in the lecture, your score will go down. And that's what we want to take a look at. So if we take a look at the rubrics right now to get a general idea of what will happen, let's say, okay, you will score in the 3 range. You'll probably score about 3.0 or 20 points out of 30 if you miss one of the counterpoints. Now, if you miss more than that, that's going to put you in the 2 range or even lower. So that's going to be important. So I think in terms of your listening, even though you write well, let's say that you do you have a very well-written essay, but you leave out one of the main points from the listening passage, you will probably score right around 20 points or 21 points out of 30. Okay, so your job, of course, is as a reader and as a listener to the lectures, you want to try to focus on the 3 key points in the reading and think of maybe an example for each one, and then try to focus on the 3 points in the lecture and maybe one example for each of those. Now, you need to get this down in note form on a sheet of paper. Ideally, in the paper, draw a line through the middle. On the left side of your paper, you can put the topic of the reading passage, and then below that, put points number 1, 2, and 3. Then on the right side of your paper, you can put the topic of the lecture, and then you'll put counterpoint 1, 2, and 3 there, and maybe one example underneath each one. Now, once you have it in note form, when it's time for you to write, you should be okay, right? You should be able to put together a fairly organized essay.